alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulihil Ameen. Wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. We are now in the last month of Zulhijjah, and today is the last day of the crescent visibility. This morning it was not seen here because of clouds, but in some places in the world this morning the last crescent of this month will be visible. And tomorrow both the sun and moon will be rising almost together. So the rising of the moon will not be visible. And setting also cannot be visible because both will be very close. So tomorrow is the last day of this year. The day after tomorrow, Thursday, is the first day of the new year, Muharram, that is 1442 Muharram. Thursday is the first day of the year. But the unhappy thing about us is that there is a lot of confusion about the beginning of the lunar months among us. If we take the world, we can see that some people are on 27th today, some 28, some 29, like that. The correct dates are not being followed because people do not know how to observe the moon. People believe that the month begins after the crescent becomes visible. This is based on the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Sumu liruyatihi wa aftiru liruyatihi. You begin fasting according to its visibility and end fasting according to its visibility. But people have going to understand this, that he meant to begin the month after the hilal becomes visible. If you think about this hadith, you can see that people have given a wrong meaning to the words of the Prophet. Sumu li ru'yatihi does not mean sumu ba'da ru'yatihi. But our practice is sumu ba'da ru'yatihi, which is contradictory to the saying of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When we go back to Quran, it is very clear. The ayat in the Surah Baqarah 189, so we have that. يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْأَهِلَّةِ قُلْ هِيَ مَوَاقِيتُ لِلنَّاسِ وَالْحَجِّ. People ask you about the ahilla, tell them that they are dates for the people and Hajj. So the crescents, that is different shapes of the moon, show us the particular date. So beginning with the first crescent, ending with the last crescent. If the month is of 29 days, we can see 28 phases of the moon. We can count from one to the last. And if the month is of 30 days, we can see 29 phases of the moon. One is not visible, that is, when the moon and sun are together, phase is not seen. There is no phase for the moon. Only dark moon is towards us. That is the last day of the month. Next day, both get separated by about 12 degrees and we can see the first crescent. The mistake that we are making is that we think that Sumu liruyati means begin fasting after seeing the hilal. It is not like that. Sumu liruyati. Begin fasting according to its visibility. It does not mean that other way after seeing the hilal. So this mistake has been continuing for a long time, and people are confused. They don't actually know what it is, and the people begin the fasting on different days. That is, people then begin the month on different days. This is not correct because the dates are based on the phases of the moon or manazil of the moon. First day it is separated by about 12 degrees. Second day it will be 24 degrees, like that going on increase. So the last day is when the moon and sun are together, on which the moon is not visible. The next day the moon becomes visible, and that is the first day. But the mistake we are making is that we think that next day after the visibility is the first. This is not correct. If we observe the moon for 3 or 4 months, we can see that we are doing a great mistake by beginning the month after first visibility of the moon. So we have to study the thing and find out the correct method that Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has taught. And we have to go back to the times of Rasulullah and see how they were uh, observing the dates. They were doing it correctly. We can see all this if we go back to history and study the details. The thing is, after 200 or 300 years of the Prophet's time, there were so many complications and so many differences, and so people have been following the other calendars also, and this calendar has been forgotten, and people were not observing it correctly. At the time of the Prophet himself, this lunar calendar was being used by the Jewish people. They had made the artificial lunar calendar for simplifying the matter, and that was in practice in those days among them. But Prophet ﷺ corrected it that the date should tally with the phases as guided in the Quran. يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْأَهِلَّةِ قُلْ هِيَ مَوَاقِيتُ لِلنَّاسِ وَالْحَجِّ. They ask you about the phases of the moon. Tell them they are the dates of the people. That is to mean that if the moon is on the second position, the date should be 2, it cannot be 1. And this can be easily corrected by observing the moon. Now, the thing we are doing is, we are beginning the month after seeing the first crescent. First crescent is seen on the first day after sunset. So that first day is gone. The next day is the second day. That we are making one. Sometimes it may not be visible on the first day due to clouds or so many reasons, and then we see it on the second and make that the first day. So in this way, we have been making the mistake for a very long time, and it is continued without being checked. So this mistake of beginning the month on 3 days in the world is existing in our times. We can see that this becomes apparent when the Eids come. Otherwise, this calendar is not being used by the people. The other English calendar has been introduced among us, all over the world by the British people when they were ruling the world. So people are accustomed to use of that artificial solar calendar, and this natural lunar calendar is forgotten. and it is not being used in most of the countries. I think the Chinese people use the lunar calendar, but I do not have the details. Arab people use it, but they are not using it in the proper way. They are beginning the month after the hilal becomes visible, and this mistake has been continuing for a long time, and it is high time that we corrected the mistake and come to the proper observation of the dates according to the phases of the moon. Now we can see the mistake. On seventh day, the moon will be overhead at the sunset. We can exactly check at this point whether our beginning of the month is correct or wrong. If it is wrong, it has to be corrected, and then the next month will be corrected according to that. But here what happens is we have the calendars printed. The calendar usually is the artificial lunar calendar in which the dates have no connection with the phases of the moon. Artificial calendar means one month 30, the other month 29 are alternating in the correct order. This is actually not the correct lunar calendar because 30 and 29 alternate in different order in different years, and it is very necessary that the date should tally with the phases of the moon. Otherwise, we are making a great mistake in that. You can see this. We have to begin fasting on the first of Ramadan. We cannot begin the fasting in Shaban. Shaban and Ramadan has to be very distinct. Likewise, Shawwal and Ramadan also should be very distinct. In the same way, all the months have to be very strictly observed, and 29 and 30 should not be changed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made some months of 29 days and some months of 30 days. This is according to the rotation of the moon around there. It has got physical laws, and then we go according to the calculations. But without knowing these calculations and without observing the phases properly, people are making mistakes, and the days of one month is going to the other month, which is forbidden in the Quran. إِنَّمَا النَّسِيُّ زِيَادَةٌ فِي الْكُفْرِ is ayah that is in Surah At-Tawbah, 37th ayah. That is, Nasiyu means changing months into the other. If the one day of Ramadan goes into Shawwal, it becomes Nasi. So this is a very important point, and people are not aware of all this, and then calendars are not printed properly, and this mistake is continuing in the Muslim community for a long time. Now it is high time that we corrected it, because we have all data about the sun and the moon. Everything is correctly moving. Quran says, "Ash-shamsu wal-qamaru bi-husban." So there is no deviation of the moon or sun. They go according to the predestined program of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So changing the months, that is month of 30 days into 29 and a month of 29 into 30, all these are strictly forbidden in Islam, and we must be observing them very correctly. So I think we will take necessary steps to correct all this, and in the coming years, coming times, we will have to be very particular about the calendars This has to be printed correctly and followed strictly. I hope that Muslim community will take interest in this matter and correct the mistake. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us ability and help us in this matter. آخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.